I'm Selin Kyazem, and this is the Great British Chef's Signature Series. Contrast is very much one of the foundations of my cooking. I think it's really important to cook plates of food that creates a party in your mouth. The more levels of contrast that you have, the more it does that, you know. I often describe my food as island cooking. What I mean is my heritage is from Cyprus, and I grew up a lot eating food that my mother would cook, and then we'd have these long hot summers in Cyprus with a lot of my grandmother's cooking. It's about what grows there, you know, the sort of fruit that when you bite into it kind of dribbles down your chin, how it should be. I'm Selin Kyazem. We are here at my restaurant in Shoreditch called Oklava, and we are going to be cooking crispy fried feta with figs in a white wine dressing and a caramelized onion and za'atar dressing. So I just love kind of these sorts of dishes that have got loads of bags of flavor to them. It's very simple to prepare, but really kind of takes you on a journey between levels of acid, texture and contrast. The first thing that we're going to do is get our onions on for caramelizing. Here I've just got a small onion or a half a larger onion chopped up. Just going to add that into a pan with a good glug of olive oil, because the olive oil will actually form part of the dressing itself for the plate, so don't be scared of it. So we'll just get the pan warming up slightly, and then we're going to add in the onions. This is only a small amount of onion, so it should probably take maybe up to about 10 minutes. It shouldn't take too long. So here we have our onions, which have kind of caramelized, kind of fried in the big glug of olive oil that we put in there. Into our pot, we're going to add za'atar. So za'atar is a blend of herbs. So we have some oregano, marjoram and some thyme that we dry out, and then we combine it with sesame seeds, sumac and a little bit of salt. So we're just going to stir that through. When you caramelize onions like this in olive oil, that in itself is like really quite rich actually, so you need something to cut through it. So again, we're going to use a little bit of the Muscatel vinegar to just go in there. And you can use any vinegar, cider vinegar, white wine vinegar, it doesn't really matter. We'll season it with a little bit of Maldon salt in there as well. The other thing that we need to do is to make our white wine dressing. So we're going to combine together some white wine. I've got some golden castle sugar here and a little bit of toasted and lightly crushed coriander seed. You could use kind of different spices in there. Again, I think it's quite nice on a finished dish like this when you just pick up the odd, you know, 2 or 3 kind of coriander seeds on a plate, and it's going to pop and bring a really lovely perfume to the thing. So we're just going to pop that on and kind of reduce it by about 1/3. So here we have our bubbling white wine dressing. So you can see it's already turned quite syrupy. You can sort of tell from these bubbles here, and it kind of got that glossy thing going onto it, which the sugar's kind of cooked down. So the figs here, I'm just gonna literally cut them into quarters. I love them, they've got the most beautiful color. When they're perfect and in season like this, I don't really want to do too much with them. So I'm just gonna drop those in. And then the last thing I'm going to do is to drop in a little bit of vinegar, so around a tablespoon. Here I'm going to use a Muscatel vinegar. Got a bit of sweetness to it as well. It's one of my favourite vinegars, so we'll pop in a little bit of that, and that's going to be a nice contrast against the sweetness there of the figs. Next thing that we're going to do is to crumb the feta. So here I have a Turkish block of feta, translated as white cheese. So it is a feta, but it's kind of a bit softer, a bit creamier. You get them in these tins in their brine. I tend to prefer it just for that kind of creamier factor to it. But you can use any sort of feta you like. I'm just gonna cut it down the middle, and then we'll go moon shapes. So next we're going to just crumb the feta. So I've just got here a little bit of flour, egg and some breadcrumbs. So just whisk up this egg. Yeah, so this is where our texture is really going to come into play, because by the time the feta is fried, it's going to have a lovely crispy outside, and then the center is going to be nice and soft and kind of almost a little bit creamy. So we're literally just going to drop it into the flour. The trick with breadcrumbing something is always to keep one hand wet and one hand dry. So never mix the 2 hands, otherwise you end up with a right mess on your fingers. I'm very influenced by my grandmother's cooking. When I was designing the menu, there were so many tastes and flavours of things that I remember from these trips to Cyprus. I just really felt like I had to bring them to the restaurant, and one of the things is the bread that we serve here. So it's spiced with a Baharat spice blend. The bread has evolved a lot over the years, and now we make it in a sourdough format, but we still very much make it exactly how she used to do it. So I'm going to deep fry the crumbed feta. The fryer is set at 180. If you don't have a fryer, that's also fine. You can shallow fry. Just sort of make sure it's at least halfway up the feta in terms of the oil. So those will just need to fry for sort of 2-3 minutes, just until they're golden brown. So we've got our feta here, nice and golden brown. So we'll just leave that to drain off on some paper for a moment. So we're pretty much ready to plate up the dish. Just the last thing I've got here is a little herb salad. So parsley, tarragon, chives, some thyme and picked mint. It's just going to bring a nice kind of freshness to the whole thing and kind of cut through everything. I'm just going to put a tiny bit of nice olive oil on there, and then also a little bit more of that muscatel vinegar, a little bit of salt. Just going to take the feta, and we've got our lovely figs here that are kind of still a little bit warm and coated in that lovely white wine dressing. And drizzle in some of this lovely dressing as well. And then we've got our rich caramelized onion dressing here. So I'm kind of just going to place little piles of this in and around. And then we'll just finish off with the lovely little herb salad. Final bit I've got here is some lovely green Turkish pistachios that have just been very lightly toasted and then kind of blitzed. So we'll just put a little sprinkling of those, and that will bring another layer of kind of texture to the dish as well. And that's it. Here we have my crispy fried feta with figs and a white wine dressing, caramelized onion and za'atar.